3.6%. In Hong Kong, the Hang was down about 2%. And that's on the day. If we look at what's happened over the past 5 days, there have been significant falls in other Asian markets. For example, Japan's been down 8% over the last 5 days, Hong Kong down 7%, and Singapore down 4%. Actually, in contrast, the US S&P 500 hasn't seen that kind of dramatic fall yet. So I think Asia is particularly hard hit because Asia is very vulnerable to oil and gas supplies that come through the Strait of Hormuz. So this is really very much about the Middle East crisis, and particularly the Strait of Hormuz, and what the closure of the Strait of Hormuz means for Asian countries.
Zooming in on Korea, as you just mentioned, the coffee has been hit particularly hard and particularly vulnerable to what's going on right now in the Middle East. It has been on such a slow run, which we've discussed many times on our show. It surged past 6,000 for the first time ever on Wednesday last week. It's come just a month after conquering the 5,000 mark. After the escalation around Iran following these US-Israeli strikes, how much of those recent gains have been wiped out?
Well, we've seen a lot of the year-to-date gains have been basically wiped out because the Kospi was up almost 50% year-to-date before the Middle East crisis. And that, due to these very large falls that we've seen in recent days, the year-to-date rise is still positive, but it's far lower, just about 18%. So what's happened is that Korea has been particularly hard hit because of its high dependency on imported oil and liquefied natural gas that comes through the Strait of Hormuz from various Middle East oil exporting countries. And so what this means for Korea, why markets are reacting so badly in Asia generally, is that the cost of the vulnerability to imported Middle East oil and gas. This scenario of exposure to the Strait of Hormuz means that oil and gas prices for Asian importers are going to rise dramatically. We've already seen the price of Brent crude has risen from $65 per barrel in February to now just over $80 per barrel today. So that's already a very big increase. And if the Strait of Hormuz doesn't reopen soon, that oil price is going to go higher because you're going to have a big disruption over a protracted period that could affect oil supply chains, and not only oil, but other refined products and also chain flows. So a lot will now depend on exactly how long this Strait of Hormuz closure continues. If it's a short period of closure and the US and Iran can agree to go back to the negotiating table and at least have a ceasefire that allows them to resume, then I think a lot of these losses that we've seen in Korea might recover relatively quickly because oil prices would come down. But unfortunately, what we're seeing is quite a big escalation in recent days in the Middle East. Not only have Israel and the US hit Iran, and Iran has retaliated, but Iran's also hit with missiles and drones other Middle East countries, which in the past, if we look back to 2025, it had been very constrained in attacking other Middle East countries. There were several strikes, but very, very limited and didn't cause much damage. This time around, the Iranian missile and drone strikes have hit quite significant targets, not only attacking U.S. military bases and other U.S. infrastructure, but also hitting other targets like airports in the UAE, industrial parks in the UAE. So the problem is that with so many other countries now hit by missiles, and also Iran having tankers that are in the Strait of Hormuz, the last thing situation is looking very difficult right now. It does seem like the plan of the U.S. is to continue to have attacks on